Caitlin Clark just walked into Milan Fashion Week and the entire sports world stopped to watch. Not as a guest, not as a plus one. As a power player, front row, center seat, Prada Fall/Winter 2026 show, surrounded by Hollywood actresses, tech billionaires, and Olympic gold medalists. And here's the thing that nobody can ignore, it looked completely natural, like she belonged there. Because at this point, she does. Think about who else was sitting in that front row. Carey Mulligan, Letitia Wright, Charli D'Amelio, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife. That is the room Caitlin Clark walked into. That is the company Prada decided to put her in. And she was not just in the room, she was the story coming out of it. Every camera in that building found her. Every fashion outlet, every sports media page, every pop culture account ran the photos. Clark did not just attend Milan Fashion Week. She became the headline of Milan Fashion Week. Now here is what people need to understand about Prada's front row. You do not just buy a ticket to sit there. You do not get lucky with an invite. Prada is one of the most image-conscious fashion houses on the planet. Every single seat in that front row is a deliberate decision. They are not filling chairs. They are sending a message about who matters right now. And they put a WNBA player, a basketball player from Iowa, in the center of that message. Forbes already ranked Clark the fourth most powerful woman in sports globally. Number 1 if you remove team owners from the list. Sportico just named her the highest paid player in the entire WNBA. And now Prada is placing her next to Olympic gold medalists at one of the most prestigious fashion events in the world. Meanwhile, Angel Reese is watching all of it from her phone, while her Reebok shoes sit marked down in a bargain bin. That image alone tells you everything about where these two players actually stand right now. Now let's talk about who was sitting right next to Clark at that Prada show. Because this was not random either. Eileen Gu, 6-time Olympic medalist, Stanford University student, brand ambassador for Louis Vuitton, Prada, and Gucci simultaneously. One of the most accomplished female winter sports athletes alive on the planet right now. At the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, Gu won gold in big air, gold in halfpipe, and silver in slopestyle. 3 medals at a single Olympics. That is not just a strong performance, that is one of the greatest individual Olympic runs any winter athlete has ever put together. Then at the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, she did it again. 3 more medals, 6 total, making her the most decorated freestyle skier in the history of the Winter Games. And on top of all of that, she is actively attending Stanford University while managing competitions, runway appearances, and global brand deals at the same time. Prada did not put these two women next to each other by accident. They put 2 of the most marketable female athletes in the world into the same frame on purpose. And the internet noticed immediately. One comment that went viral captured exactly what everyone was feeling. Clark was not just attending a fashion show. She was the story coming out of it. Fashion editors and sports analysts both wanted to write about that front row at the same time. That dual audience appeal is incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. Now think about what that image looks like to Angel Reese. Reese has spent enormous energy trying to position herself as the WNBA's crossover star. The player who goes beyond basketball, the player with style and culture. And here is Clark sitting next to an Olympic gold medalist who walks runways and studies at one of the best universities in the world. You cannot manufacture that. You cannot decide you belong in that room. You have to get invited. Let's talk about the endorsement portfolio that made all of this possible. Because when you line it all up, it stops looking like a basketball story very fast. Start with Nike. Clark's deal is reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years. The largest endorsement contract any WNBA player has ever signed. And Nike is not just putting her face on an existing shoe. They are building a full signature program around her. Her own shoe, her own line. Nike does not do signature shoes for players they are testing out. They do it for players they are betting on long-term. The list of athletes who have ever had a true Nike signature line is short, and it has been almost entirely male. Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Durant. That is the tier Clark is now entering. Then there is Wilson Sporting Goods. Clark has a signature line with Wilson, and she is the first female athlete Wilson has built a signature line around since Michael Jordan. Let that land. The last time Wilson did this for someone, it was Jordan, and now it is Clark. Gatorade recently signed her as well. Reports describe it as a record deal for a female athlete in their entire portfolio. Gatorade has had some of the biggest names in sports history on their roster, and Clark's deal is setting a new record inside that company. And then there is State Farm. Clark was their first ever female athlete endorser, not their first WNBA player. Their first female athlete. State Farm has been operating since 1922. Over 100 years in business, and Clark is the first woman they have ever brought on as an athlete endorser. Nike, Wilson, Gatorade, State Farm, all treating her as a centerpiece, not an addition, all seeing real returns on their investment, all doubling down heading into 2026. In her rookie season alone, Clark pulled in an estimated $8.1 million in endorsements. Forbes called it a fundamental shift in how female athletes are valued in professional sports. Now let's talk about Angel Reese, because this contrast is impossible to ignore. Reese signed with Reebok, got a signature shoe, got real marketing support behind it, got a genuine launch moment with real backing and real resources. And months later, the shoe is not moving. Reports are coming in that Reese's Reebok shoes are showing up in bargain bins, not after a sellout run where inventory got restocked at a lower price, just sitting there, marked down. Waiting for buyers who are not showing up in the numbers anyone at Reebok was hoping for. That is a bad sign at any stage of a shoe cycle. This early, it is a really bad sign. Now compare that to what analysts are projecting for Clark's Nike signature shoe. The expectation, based purely on demand for anything with her name attached, is that it sells out in minutes. Not days, minutes. That gap is not just a marketing story. That is consumer behavior telling you exactly who people actually want to spend money on. Reebok is reportedly pulling back, not making a loud announcement, just quietly reducing the marketing support behind Reese going forward. And when brands go quiet on you, it is never a good sign. It means their own data told them something they did not want to say out loud. Here is what that data is almost certainly telling them. Reese's brand runs primarily on controversy and social media noise. She generates constant attention online, that is real. But getting talked about and actually moving product are two completely different things. Sponsors know that difference. Attention does not pay for inventory, sales do. Clark's brand works the opposite way, built on performance, consistency, how she carries herself publicly. Low risk, high return. Every brand that signed her knows exactly what they are getting, and what they are getting makes them look good every single time. The history between Reese and Clark goes back further than most people realize, and it has been building ever since. After LSU beat Iowa in the 2023 NCAA tournament, Reese did the "you cannot see me" gesture directly in Clark's face during the final moments. That moment went viral. Reese leaned into it hard, and a rivalry was born. Since then, there has been a steady pattern: social media commentary, veiled digs. Reese finding ways to insert herself into Clark's story every time Clark hits a new milestone. When Clark announced her LPGA partnership, Reese tweeted 2 words, just 2 words. Fans immediately understood exactly what it was: frustration dressed up as a joke. And that pattern keeps repeating. Every time Clark reaches a new level, there is a reaction from Reese. It has become its own storyline. And it is not one that is doing Reese any favors with the brands watching from the sidelines. Sponsors are not naive about any of this. They watch how athletes behave publicly, how fans respond, and most importantly, what the actual sales numbers look like. Right now, every one of those signals is moving in the same direction, away from Reese, straight toward Clark. Nike is making absolutely sure everyone notices which way they are leaning. They are not just keeping Clark inside basketball either. They are reportedly expanding her program to include golf, with crossover appearances at LPGA events and a positioning as a 2-sport ambassador. That is not just signing an athlete. That is building a lifestyle brand around a single person across multiple sports and multiple audiences. That is the kind of strategy you use when you believe someone has genuine crossover potential beyond any one sport or any one fan base. Here is where everything lands. And this is the big picture that every sports fan needs to understand heading into 2026. The WNBA just locked in an 11-year, $2.2 billion media rights deal. That is 4 times the value of the previous contract. 4 times. Analysts covering the league are directly connecting that jump to what Clark did for TV ratings and attendance when she entered the league in 2024. ESPN has reported the league is now generating enough revenue to trigger revenue sharing among players. That did not exist before Clark arrived. There are also reports circulating about a potential Netflix documentary series in development centered around Clark. Behind-the-scenes access, real moments, the kind of content that pulls in people who do not even watch basketball and turns them into fans overnight. And the entire Indiana Fever organization is feeling this ripple effect. Bigger crowds than the franchise has ever seen, more national media coverage, players like Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, and Sophie Cunningham competing on a stage they never had access to before Clark arrived. Most athletes elevate themselves. Clark is elevating an entire franchise, an entire league, and through all of it, she sat front row at Prada, next to an Olympic gold medalist, completely unbothered. Looking like she has belonged in that world her entire life. Nike is betting on her long-term. Wilson compared her to Jordan, Gatorade broke their own records to sign her, State Farm made history with her, and Prada put her in the most coveted seat at Milan Fashion Week. Angel Reese is fuming, Reebok is going quiet, and Caitlin Clark is just getting started. Year 3 has not even begun yet, the court has not even opened. And she is already the most talked about athlete in women's sports on the entire planet. When the season tips off on May 8th, the world will be watching. And something tells us they will not be disappointed.